Well, hello there, guys. I just want to do a quick video on learning from videos. So, what is learning from videos? What is it? Okay. Couldn't really find an exact textbook definition or something like that to give you, but as I read through some of these articles and did a little bit of research on it, really learning from videos refers to the use of videos to help teachers provide effective instruction in an asynchronous environment. Okay. Meaning we may have students out. We that need to watch a video to learn something. There's not a set time and place where this video has to be used necessarily. Okay, it could be used in a flipped classroom environment, so forth and so on. We'll get into more detail. I think this is key in this pandemic era. I just wanted to make a note of that. As students are gone or in and out of the classroom, as they're sick, as they're whatever it may be, I think the use of videos we have found to be very important and paramount to success for our classroom. Uh, but it is important to note that this is different than just a traditional model of a lecture-driven class. So it's not just that we're teaching students something, uh, but with a video, they're able to stop it. We're actually able to make it more interactive, and I'll show you how using Edpuzzle later to actually make students stop and think about what they're learning during the video and making them an active learner during the video instead of just watching it and just taking in a bunch of information. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, how does it work? It can be used in a lot of different ways. It can be used in a classroom or a flipped classroom type style. So I could have a student watch a video before coming to class. I could have them watch a video as a pre-lab activity before they perform a lab. I might have some questions embedded within that video, but so it can be used for flipped classroom. Now, I like this explanation of what Edpuzzle does, which is really an example of platform used for learning via videos. So Edpuzzle can help facilitate video lessons that include explicit instruction elements such as eliciting frequent responses, offering supported practice, providing immediate affirmative and corrective feedback, and monitoring student performance. What I'm getting at with that is what Edpuzzle allows you to do is students are able to watch a video and stop at certain spots, answer questions. They may you may add some extra feedback to the video or some extra explanation of some sort. And students can answer questions. You can get feedback or you can get data from how your class is doing using that. And then you can really make data driven decisions. And so it's a really great thing for students. Videos can also be used with real-time quizzing. Khan Academy is great example of that. Khan Academy uses videos. You watch the video, and afterwards, they can give you some questions. Like after a unit or something like that, there's some questions that go along with it that teachers can use. And there's an article that I read that talked about the use of quizzes, pre and post quizzes for a video, and they found that to be really helpful for students to actually think about the video instead of just watching the video. Now, videos can also be used to support prior learning. So you may teach something in class or have an activity in class, and then you want kids to think more deeply about that. So you might assign a video for after class for them to watch as homework. It's very similar to them practicing, doing some formative practice. But in this case, they're watching a video to support that learning that they've just gained from being in class. Now, how does it help student learning? I'm just going to give you some data from some of the articles that I read to prove that it does help student learning. This is a figure from an article I read about uh, teachers in an analytical chemistry class, actually college level, but I still think it's applicable to us, who integrated videos that students could watch for the 6 topics that students struggled with the most in their class. This was actually resolved or a lot around titrations and stuff. And what they found was in 2009, fall 2009, they didn't have the videos accessible to students. Whereas in spring 2010, they did. And what they found is students did much better when they had access to these videos. Okay, it was almost like online tutoring, they called it. Okay, something for students to watch afterwards to help support what they had already learned. So it's showing that videos can be helpful, depending on how they're used, to help student learning and student performance. Here's another example. This is an article about Edpuzzle specifically. And what these researchers found was the use of Edpuzzle when it came to pre and post test. They showed a 63% increase in problem solving skills. Okay. And so they saw that in their article. So it really increased the students' problem solving skills by the use of Edpuzzle, them having to stop the videos, being forced to watch the videos, so forth and so on, and answer questions. And so that was evidence that Edpuzzle, which is learning from videos, is helpful in student performance. Now, this one here, this is actually specific to flipped classrooms, since I talked about flipped classrooms earlier. The interesting thing about this article is they actually found that student performance was pretty similar in the flipped and non-flipped classroom uh, styles. But what they did find was they found very high satisfaction, or fairly high satisfaction, with the flipped classroom model. And so I wanted to include this article because even if sometimes we don't see an increase in student performance, or it's very similar, if it's very similar, if we see student satisfaction increase with one model, I think that's very helpful because that's really building rapport with our students and helping us have a better learning atmosphere. And so I think that this article was helpful while not improving student performance and helping us think why a flipped classroom model could be helpful to us. Now, that's just one research article. There's probably more out there that might show other results if flipped classroom is more successful. Okay, that leads to how it can be used. Quickly, as we get into this, I wanted to give you an article. I'm not going to go detail about it because just time doesn't allow. But I found this article on Chemex, and it's a really good article that has actually a specific lesson plan of how a teacher first introduced Edpuzzle to students. And they scaffolded it by giving them a very simple example that wasn't even chemistry related. And I think that's great because as we introduce new technology to students and a new way of doing something, it's important that we scaffold them into it, or we give them an easy way of thinking it, or give them an easier example as they get into actually using it with our chemistry concept. So please, if you get time, take a look at that. I think it's helpful. So last thing here, was we go back to how can we use it. I uploaded a video. I actually signed up for an Edpuzzle account. Never used it before. I actually made a video, or I had a video that I had made, and I uploaded it. And what's great about this is when I upload that video, what I'm able to do is I'm able to disable the ability for students to fast forward the video, and so they're forced to watch the whole video. And also in that, I'm able to embed questions. You can embed questions, as many questions as you want. But what I did is here you can see it's kind of covered up, but there's a little gray arrow here. When students get to that point in the video, it's going to stop the video for them and it's going to ask them to answer a question. Now, you can embed a lot of questions. I just did one for this example, just so you kind of see how this works. So when I get to that point in that video, I gave them a multiple choice question. This is pretty much what they should know at this point in the video. They should know what the formulae blocks of the periodic table are. So they're able to answer this. Do I actually know so far what I'm supposed to know? And actually makes them stop and think about what they've learned so far as well. Now, I answered it wrong on purpose, and it will give them the correct answers. They said, hey, this is what I was supposed to know. I didn't know what I was supposed to know, so I could go back and watch more of the video, or now I understand where I went wrong. I think that's really helpful in making students more active in their learning instead of just watching the video through and moving on to the homework, maybe. Okay, so that's just an example of how you could use it. Very basic example, but I think it kind of gives you an example of this video with learning. Now, what is my opinion of this? I use videos in class already, a decent amount, but I love this idea of really supporting what I'm doing in class by the use of videos in a more interactive way, in ways that I haven't already. I've just provided students with videos, but things like Edpuzzle, things like pre and post quizzing, flipped classroom, um, type ways of using videos, I really like because it makes students interact more with the video that they're using, especially Edpuzzle. I really have had fun playing around with Edpuzzle and getting to know it a little bit. I really would like to use it in my classroom. So here are my references. Let me know if you have any questions.